welcome back yet to another episode. We're naming this the Doom and Gloom episode for just to brace you guys for what's coming up. We got a bunch of news, movements around in the industry on the ad side. I think also on just industry-wide macro side. I don't know how you're feeling about this, Ray, but I'm kind of clenching my butt cheeks for this one.
It's one thing after the other, dude. I swear with this industry. Ever since 2021, it's been like one thing every quarter, it feels like.
Yeah. You know, cookies, iOS, I think we're going to leave that one out, especially, I mean, you know.
Yeah, we're not going to get that topic.
Cookie apocalypse has been coming for a while now. If you have not heard about the cookie apocalypse, I really recommend that you probably even just leave this episode and go Google cookie apocalypse.
Go do that first.
Go do that first and then come back. You're kicking us off with the first topic there, Ray.
Yeah, so for this first episode of Doom and Gloom, hold on.
Oh God, there are more episodes?
There may have to be.
We're changing the name of the podcast.
Going, I think it's going to have to be probably. AI is coming. We're all going to be out of a job eventually.
We're starting to sound like old dudes.
I know,
just like pessimistic and beaten down by life. Anyway, you go.
Honestly, I've already started catching myself saying, man, I miss the good old days of 2018 Facebook ads.
That's when you know you're old.
That's so bad. Okay. All right. So like what he said, hold on your butt cheeks, because the world, when I mean by world, Google, they own the world, is after your emails, guys. They're coming after it. So if you haven't been paying attention, which you haven't been, wherever you've been doing, Google and Yahoo have just come up with new sender requirements, and they're doozies. So up until now, for the past 15, 20 years, you could pretty much spam the crap out of people and it would hurt your reputation, sure, but there wasn't anything that they would do about it. Well, now they're putting very strict requirements to where if you stay under a 0.3 spam rate or unsubscribe rate, you're good. But if you go over that, which I've seen some accounts, it's not that hard to go over. But if you go over it over a 7-day period, they actually lock you down, meaning they start penalizing your deliverability. And the longer it goes on, the more they penalize you. So the good thing about that is you can repair it, and then they lift that. You can call it shadow ban if you want to. They'll lift it once you repair it and it gets healthy again. But they're really coming out of the gate swinging, mainly because of the complaints from their users around spam. So there's a few things you need to do. The first one is you have to set up a DMARC authentication for your setting domain. So you actually do that in your domain settings, whether it's in Klaviyo or in SendLane, but then also on your domain hosting as well. You have to set that up. It's very easy to do. There's an article that we can put in the show notes to walk you through those steps. That's the first thing. The second thing is your from domain must also match your domain. So the from name, so for example, for us, our from name must be Right Hook Digital or Right Hook, and our domain must also match Right Hook Digital or Right Hook, whatever that terms that we use. Because, and I'm guilty of this, it was just too easy to change the from name to get that incremental open rate. So a tactic we used to do is instead of having from Nike, you could have it be from CEO of Nike, from head of product at Nike. You could change the form field and you could actually get incremental lift by doing that because people see that. Well, apparently that's kind of going away. So now if you want to do that, you have to have like a domain name from CEO of Nike if you want to do that same strategy now. So it's a bit more hurdles, a bit more cost to buy those domain names, but essentially that's what you have to do. The third thing, which I think is just complete whack-doodle, is you have to now make it more clear to unsubscribe. So if you guys haven't noticed, on your phones, in your mail app, on iPhone at least, I don't know about Android, it's even easier to unsubscribe than it ever has been. They are automatically giving you at the very top an unsubscribe button. Previously, you had to go to the footer to do that. But now they're saying that you have to, in the body copy of the email, also clearly state how they can unsubscribe. So imagine, if you will, it used to be always in the footer.
Yes.
Then they did an update to where now at the very top and on your mobile device, you can unsubscribe with one click. Now you have to also include it in the body copy as well. So it's just like, So now essentially every email is going to have 3 different clear messaging of how you can unsubscribe, which if you have a good list, if you make good content and you care about your customers, probably not going to be a big deal for you. But if you're a brand that survives on just mass blast, you're probably in trouble.
Yes. So the good old days of the unsubscribe whisper at the very bottom is, if you don't like this email, you can just unsubscribe. Click here. Like,
you know what's so funny? Oh man, this is really bad dating myself. Probably in like the 2010s, 2008s, 2008. I mean, you could keyword stuff websites like on the side of the page, keyword stuff it, but it was like all it was like white text on white. You never see it.
All that growth hacker stuff.
Same thing on emails. They used to do that.
All that growth hacker stuff for sure.
Yep.
And then you can get your developer to just go Z position and then -9999, and then it'll be off page visibility wise, but it's all there.
I took a web design class. I used to highlight the entire page to see all the keywords people were stuffing, or go to the view source and you could find out what they were using.
Totally.
But you can't do that anymore.
How do I find out? You said point 3. Where do I even go to see what my spam score is?
Great question. Okay. So most email service providers, all of them do, except for if you're doing this, with Gmail alone, they will show you every email you send. They will show you your unsubscribe rate and your spam rate. So that's how you find out. Now, what you can do, we use Klaviyo for a lot of our brands, is as a way to sense check it. Not only Klaviyo, but other email service providers come up with industry benchmarks. And a way to sign a spot that you have a deliverability problem is, how do you compare these industry benchmarks? So for example, if I sell electronics, am I over or under the average open rate for that niche? Am I over or under the average click-through rate? I'm not going to lie to you. When I looked at this, these are actually pretty freaking high with a lot of brands that come to us, which tells me a lot of them have deliverability issues, which typically the biggest sign there is they're emailing their entire list, which if you're doing that, the writing's kind of on the wall, which means like you have to go after people that are engaged, unfortunately.
Right, for sure. And I guess the behavior that these platforms are trying to incentivize is to help their users, which is almost the entire world, help their users at least as a consumer, have a pleasant experience on their platforms. I guess that is the incentivization here. Of course, there are all the other monetary things as well. Like, for example, originally when I remember, again, dating myself now, I remember when Gmail started opening up the option to have promo tab, social tab, forums tab, and all the promotional email got out of people's direct inbox and went to the promo tab to try to monetize, then to go, hey, advertisers, if you want more visibility, you can now run advertising inside of Gmail to get out and to get out of the promo tab. And the market, the reactionary move from the market was, when you send that first email, or when you send the thank you page would always say, hey, check your spam and check your promo. And then usually there's some kind of GIF to show people how to drag an email from promo tab into inbox tab and mark it that way. So it always shows up in the inbox.
I've always wondered how well that actually works. Like, what percentage of people actually follow those directions? Is it 5%, 1%? I mean, every little bit helps, but I mean, we're getting to a future where your size of your list doesn't matter. In fact, it's actually going to hurt you more. And then to keep up with those open rates and click-through rates and keep your list healthy with your domain authority, you're going to have to go after a smaller and smaller pool of engaged people, unless obviously you build a brand or a community or the content where people always want to open. It's just like, the name of the game is like, how big is your engaged list? Not your entire list, just how big is your engaged list? Like, that's where the money's at.
Sure. Do you think it's a net positive outcome from this? Do you think it's
for a consumer, absolutely.
Willy Wonka move? Like,
for a consumer, absolutely. I think the net benefit for brands is going to be, it's going to force them to make better content. It's going to force them to have a good experience where people actually want to hear from them. And it's going to force them to probably respect people's inboxes a bit more. Right. But the downside of that is a lot of brands are going to get really hurt in the next 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. It's one, I think I really resonate with the marketers that propound that you need to treat people's inboxes sacred. I think Seth Godin talks about this all the time. He talks about like permission marketing, right? Like the fact that people give you permission to enter their inbox. If they give you permission to enter their inbox, then treat that invitation with the gravity that it deserves and the respect that it deserves and all that. And to then go, hey, thanks for signing up. Here's something that I want to give you. The difficulty, I think, with that makes sense if you are, say, I don't know, a SaaS tool, or maybe if your products are very aligned to health and wellness, where you can just drop tips and drop all that all the time. But if it comes down to apparel or jewelry, how do you do that without being overly transactional is a real challenge. I think that would be I put my marketer hat on.
You have to think like, what value can I give someone who's buying a t-shirt from me, right?
Totally.
Is that more entertainment? Like, there's only so many ways you can educate on a t-shirt. So you have to hedge on something that's some kind of value for them to pay attention.
Totally. Because otherwise, I think the lowest hanging fruit, or maybe not even the lowest hanging fruit, but the most lazy thought process will prompt, well, value means, what do consumers value? Discounts. So I'm just going to start because if it's lazy thinking, it's like that's the thing to do, right? Because I can't be overly promotional. It's not just me showing just different variations of creative for the same type of product or for some kind of incrementally different product. So how do we give value? Hey, boss, what do you think? Since this Google deliverability thing is here, let's start giving away like discounts for this and get creative around that. That could be a slippery slope if that's like the extent of thinking that goes into it.
It makes me think of, for the brands that stand for something, it gives you a bit more of an edge to send something that people care about. So for example, someone asked me on Twitter, I'm surprised I still call it Twitter. I know it's X, but it's so ingrained to me. Like if I say X, I feel like I have to explain what X is.
Yeah.
It is weird still. On X, a fashion brand reached out to me because they sell t-shirts and we do a lot of fashion. And he's asking like, what works for this niche? There's a point to this. And the brands that we see that sell apparel, specifically, t-shirts, the only ones that work now are the ones that really stand for something. So for example, we have brands that they're all about patriotism, right? It's like, that's what they stand for. So now when they send content, it's not just about a t-shirt, it's about, they can talk about that thing that they stand for. And that's an example where when you stand for something or you're themed or you're niche like that, then it opens up your possibility of what you can send people that they actually want to pay attention to. And then your product is kind of like a secondary thought.
Yeah, right. It's the merch for the mission.
There you go.
Right? Like if you want to coin it that way. Sorry,
yeah, no, you're right.
Hard to take the marketer hat off.
Because then what you can talk about is the mission, and then people just obviously that align with that mission obviously are gravitated towards you.
Yeah, and we've worked with so many different types of brands where they've managed to catch the imagination of a group of common like-minded people. Right. And then started a community around that, whether that's a Facebook group or whether that's a Discord channel or whether that's like in-person events. Exactly. Right. Where it's, hey, if you're a motorhead like me, if you care about sustainability like we do, which is kind of one that is very, very real, but then also everyone's jumped on that bandwagon. If you're down to party, right? Like, what's the name of that brand? It was super huge for like college kids. Chubbies. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, totally. You can have that too.
A funny story. So speaking of that, I used to, before Right Hook days, I freelanced for an e-commerce brand called Ray John Rageon. They're a print on demand company, had Amazon VPs as their investors. Anyways, they sold apparel that you can put anything on it. And often people use it as a marketplace that they had an influence, but they didn't want to do their own products. So they put their designs on and people bought from that marketplace. Anyways, so some of the hottest influencers of our day were selling apparel on it. Just like that, I would have to take, okay, what's this apparel about? What are the potential interests on Meta? And so funny, my best converting interests were selling party apparel to Logan Paul interests on Meta. It crushed.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Go figure. Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's wild. It's wild what happens watching the founders that we work with and the brands that we work with that have managed to capture that.
Yes.
And all the good stuff that happens to them, and how their customer base stops becoming this transactional relationship. It becomes this two-way thing, which is really such a great way to shore up against scenarios just like what, like this whole Google deliverability thing and Yahoo, like email deliverability just in general. And it's not too late for anyone to listen, like watching this now, to start doing that and just go, because what was the conventional wisdom for the longest time? Always like, don't rely on platforms, capture the email. Because once you have their email address, that's yours to keep and it's your stuff and this, that, and the other. You own it. You can touch and you can have those touch points whenever you want. 2024.
Nope.
Sorry, that's not the way anymore. So it's when the bar goes higher, I think all of us, our standards and the quality of the work that we do has to go higher as well. And the level of care, I guess, is what they're trying to inspire here. Because I got this to show you, which is...
I do have a prediction. I think what's going to end up happening is, I think two things. It's going to force brands to do everything we mentioned so far. But I think it's also going to force the emergence of what are other places I can house my customers in? Is that groups, Discord groups, right? So I can reach them more easily without getting penalized if I need to. I think it's going to have a really big emergence of that space.
Yeah, for sure. And when we had that episode with Justin, he talked about cleaning up the list as well. I think this makes it so much more prominent, the reason why. So those of y'all who watch that and still haven't done it, this is 2.0 reminder to do that. We're doing that for our own email list as well, just to make sure that we have like maximize your chances for deliverability and just maintain.
It's painful for us to say goodbye to emails, but you got to do it.
Yeah, totally. Like it's like spring cleaning, I guess. No one really, I don't know. There's some people that look forward to doing it, but for me, it's a drag. You feel better afterwards, but geez. I do have this to show you. I put this out as a tweet a few weeks ago. So this right here, exactly to your point, right? With the deliverability thing, with this type of a change, like a policy change on a platform, stuff just tanks.
My gosh.
This was from Alex Hawker. It just came across my feed. I'll go into the original thing. That's his traffic.
So is that SEO traffic?
So that is his site traffic. This for one of those SEO type like publications.
So it looks like the back end of Merchant Center or Search Console.
Right, actually. Yeah. And so you can see here clicks over there, impressions over there. And I know it's super small, but that's April 23 to April 24.
My gosh.
And you can see just right before October, it just drops off like a cliff. It tries as it can to work through this stuff. And then it just goes, ugh.
Oh my gosh.
It's wild. I don't work in the world of SEO whatsoever. And I hardly have any friends or peers that own publication sites where it's mainly monetizing traffic and building lists and monetizing their list, etc. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that this was it's a site for like Nashville tourists.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang, poor dude.
It's wild. So, but if I scroll down, you can see that he's not alone. It just starts
Holy crap.
sliding down there. This one just tanks and goes flatline. And the takeaway I got from this, thanks Jurassic Park, I might actually come see you. Another one there. It's not this one. I don't even know what's going on. How heartbreaking is this? You're like, I'm starting to see it, man. It's starting to grow and I'm doing well. And it just drops off like that. So, for anyone here watching this who's not a marketer, this is the kind of stuff we have to look at on the back end and still operate as a human being and interact with our kids and our partners and put a smile on our faces and go, yeah, what's for dinner, honey? Tomorrow's going to be great.
It's like one of those things, like you can never prepare for your version of a doomsday event. You just, when it hits you, you'll know, and you just have to decide, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to fight through this? Am I going to pivot? Or am I just going to do this and go do something else?
Yeah, 100%. That's the agility part. That's the learning how to pivot. That's the learning how to flow with it. Learning how to relearn. All that kicks in when you've got a situation like that occurring, and I think it's the other lesson also is to go, well, a single traffic source, right? Really you're really putting all of your eggs into one basket. Yes. We felt this firsthand ourselves when our own Meta account went down, ad account went down. What was it, like last year?
Yeah, last May.
The way that we advertised to onboard new growth partners and new clients, new brands, that went down. And for the longest time, that was our like one-legged stool.
Yep.
I don't know if you ever sat on a one-legged stool. It's really uncomfortable, but then also too, like you got some drunk pals to walk by, want to make a prank on you, to just kick it out if it's under you.
Yeah. Now you're in trouble. Not a great place to be in when things aren't going perfect.
Right, for sure. Absolutely. Especially when your traffic hinges on the algorithm playing in your favor, or you understanding the rules of that algorithm. Because then once the rules change, now that starts getting wacky. And I understand how difficult it is to manage understanding the rules of multiple algorithms. I get that. But what you get from that is a bit of safety and the ability to flow between them as well. But yes, story, please.
Piggybacking off that. So I know 3 people who built niche content sites like that Twitter thread that you showed. And every single one of them, when I asked them, hey, so what else are you doing for traffic? And they talked about how they monetize, but SEO is still the main thing. So this is kind of similar to people that only run like meta ads and that's it. But when I asked them, well, what are you doing on the email side? They were doing hardly anything, if anything at all. And then none of them were really prioritizing even capturing email addresses or phone numbers. And one person who went as far as to tell me they have a 1% opt-in rate, which is abysmal. So all I have to say is people who were getting so much traffic organically didn't even have the foresight to focus on capturing the data. So when that happens, you do have nothing else to stand on. At least an email list is a little peg of anything to help you bring some kind of incremental lift. But it's pretty surprising. Like for us, that's the first thing we see when a brand comes in. It's like, okay, how are you capturing this data to remarket to them?
Yeah.
And the whole point I'm trying to make is there's often things that are very close to what you're already doing that you're just not taking advantage of it. Like capturing data, for example.
Yeah, 100%. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, guys. So one algorithm change can really mess up a whole bunch of things. So hence the stuff that we talk about all the time, which is, respect your email marketing, respect building a community, like have a relationship with your customers, put out good creative. It comes back to the same old thing again, because tactics can only take you so far in platform. Yeah, cost cap and ABO, CBO, Advantage Shopping Plus, and sure, absolutely. Until that changes, and we'll talk about yet another change on the Meta verified side. Maybe that might be a good place to go next.
Yeah, let's talk about that one.
It's so mid last week, I got sent this on I opened up my phone, went to my IG, and got sent this guy. Now I'm going to punch in a little bit. It's changes to your Meta Verified subscription. Now, I signed up to Meta Verified not because I'm one of those gurus that care about a blue check mark. I could not give two less shits about check marks. But people were, after my founder course launched, people were spinning, like scammers were spinning up D-dong, D-dang, all the, yeah, right? Like Denny. Well, anyway,
D's dong.
Yeah, D's dong, all that, to and sending out like shitcoin DMs. Hey, I'm jumping into this coin. You should jump into, click this link. And people were, my audience were sending me DMs, and my pals were sending me DMs, being like, "Bro, is this you?" And I'm going, "It's not. Holy hell!" So anyway, jumped in, did that. I'll pay the money, whatever. And now this came in last week, or maybe earlier this week. So you've got a new, the name of your subscription has changed. You've got a new benefit now, right? You can add more images to the links.
Instagram doesn't have that already, images.
Right. You can add images to the links of your profile. Now there's also a benefit change. We're removing some features, right, that offer subscribers the possibility of more visibility in some areas like comments and recommendations. So in other words, we're getting nerfed.
Yeah, it's like, here, we're moving away the one thing you want, which is more visibility, but we're giving you more images.
Right. Yay. You can post some pixels, but guess what? When you post them, less people will see them. So where does this kick in?
So tone deaf.
Right. And I know where they're going. They are a business after all. I get it.
Sure.
And they need to find other ways to monetize, to appease the Wall Streets. They have to find ways to monetize beyond simply advertising. Get that. Metaverse thing, don't know. Like, that was the topic for everyone for the longest time. Kind of went nowhere. Get that. Oculus VR, meh. Now this AI thing's coming in. It still kind of hovers around ads. Now, this right here, so I went and did a bit of digging, and this down at the very bottom, that's when I went, oh, okay. So do you need me to punch this in? I'll punch it in for the sake of...
like one magnitude deeper. Okay.
Boop. So now they've got tiers, right?
Oh my gosh.
I'm over at this tier, right? So you get a verified badge, you get impersonation protection, which is what I originally wanted, and also the reach was nice. You get search optimization, which is interesting. Search optimization on a social platform, as opposed to search optimization on a search platform. But then you get to, so that's $14.99. Business standard $14.99, and then let's move on to the pluses.
Oh, so how many tiers are there?
We'll get there.
Holy crap!
Yeah. So now here, featured account, introduce your business to new audiences. So that starts at $44.99 featured, $119.99 more featured. I like how they just went simple. Their copywriter just went, I don't know how best to describe this. Just featured, but more featured.
And then more featured.
I wish they wrote that. For $349.99, you get more featured, or most featured. So now you want to talk about pay to play, but, we had boost ad, we had a boost post and all that before that. That's no news to anyone. But now there's this in the mix as well to consider, and it just kind of circles around. So
I really wish they gave, I bet they would get a lot of people signing up for the top tier if they could quantify. You get shown to 15% more searches, 18% more searches. Because I could take that $300, put it behind ads, and I can get in front of these many people, these many impressions, this much reach. If they did that, they'd probably get a lot of people signing up for it.
Yeah, and if they want to go really ham, they can take a page out of like some agency's books and go, if you don't get no reach, you don't pay. Bow, 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 bow. but for every one new subscriber, we charge you this much. And then they just start to, I mean, like how far does this game go? I get that it's a tough game, right? Like they've got billions of people on their platform, and a certain percentage of that would fall under the businesses category. Probably a larger percentage would be the creators category.
Yeah.
And then within the creators category, you've got this slice of, what do you want to call them? Expert advice givers. Yep. That I think this would make sense for. But if we think about most of the population, they'd be either trying to push their own brand or they are trying to make it as a creator. That would make up, I would imagine, the chunk of the list rather than the stuff that we do.
I guess the question I would love to ask is, if they've done the data modeling and they're trying to monetize, are they going to penalize even good content because they don't have a check or a certain plan? You know what I mean? Like, is there going to be a downstream effect where it disincentivizes, maybe on internally, really good content to where you can't get the reach you want unless you have to pay?
And that's here's the thing that fascinates me. Because of the complexity of all these algorithms, whether it's Google search, whether it's Facebook's engagement graph, whether it's TikTok's consumption graph, who owns the inputs and outputs anymore? You've got so many engineers working on it that I don't even know. You know what I mean? It's not exactly a switch this button, toggle this thing on. So
it's a whole team.
Oh God, it'd be like thousands of people. Like that's how you get that weird, like super wokey Gemini.
Oh, that would have been a great conversation to bring up here. Yeah, like show me Abraham Lincoln, and it's all like Asian.
Yeah, it's all exactly. It's like an Asian Abraham Lincoln, or like because it's. I heard this term spoke about on another podcast, but the when you have to coordinate so many people like that, and there seems to be some type of overtone, like political overtone on it, you get this structural stupidity, which is a whole different topic, right? But point being, even with the question you asked, so do only the people that pay for, if it's pay to play, is it strictly pay to play? So you get people that have crappy content, pay $350. So are you paying $350 for forgiveness of crappy content? What does that do to then the consumer's perception of that platform? So, right, because now I'm just getting fed crappy content with a very, very big fat blue check, but it's not only is it not relevant, but it's not good. Whatever good means to billions of consumers have to determine what good is, and all a company like Meta can do is look at the high level stats. But that's where it's going, guys. So keep that part in mind for all y'all that are focusing on your organic efforts to augment your paid efforts. This is something that between the email thing happening and this Meta Verify thing happening, they're still testing it. It seems, but
you signed up for the $15 a month one, right?
Right. That was the only tier they had before. That's the thing. That's what I mean.
You can do $300 a month.
I'm not going to do $300 a month. Jeez. Like, boy, that is wild. That is wild. Like, I don't deserve $300 a month. Like, I'm going to let that go to Uber Eats instead. But yeah, so between the email deliverability thing, and the organic stuff, it almost seems like the whole world is going towards paid.
I mean, Musk started it with Twitter.
Pay to play, pay to play. I think is the way.
First subscription for a social platform, and
pay to play is going to be the way to go. And I almost wonder if even this whole spam deliverability, we want to honor your inbox thing, also is yet another nudge towards, hey, you can run ads in the inbox.
Oh, this is another recent update. So maybe it's quite recent. Apple is testing a new update to their browser. Maybe you've seen this, to where it is the ad blocker, meaning if you go to a website, like a content site, you have AdSense ads, it will block it completely without any other external ad blocker. Yeah.
Wow. Tim Cook, I don't know what it is. Tim Cook running that ship really dislikes ads.
He does. I mean, I still think we're going to wake up one day and like, now you can serve ads and we'll show your ads anywhere. Because like that would be the ultimate Trump move, meaning use our ad platform. You can serve in the App Store as well as to people's browsing experience, as well as to their other app experiences.
Sure.
That's
Closed
a $1 trillion company right there.
Yeah, closed ecosystem for sure. Hey, you got some Shopify news for us as well, huh?
Yes. Okay. So if you guys haven't been paying attention, Shopify came out with their earnings. And I think it's insightful enough to pay attention to it. So their stock price is getting absolutely smashed right now. Now, why is that? Well, one thing is what they projected, they missed it. Not by a lot. If you looked at their numbers, their gross margin value, their operating profit, their free cash flow, they're in a fairly healthy spot. But the reason it's getting smashed right now is because they beat earnings, and two, they've downgraded their outlook for the next couple quarters in the rest of the year. And that's why it's getting hammered, because the rocket ship growth they've been on the last few years is starting to slow. Now, a couple of things that's important to keep in mind is their gross margin value, which they still made $60 billion, and it's up 23% year on year. But what's interesting is that that's coming from payments. So what that means is a majority of their revenue is coming from people swiping the card, either from merchants or because now Shopify Pay is becoming a quite popular payment portal. And so what that does is that puts them at risk when the consumer confidence outlook for the entire nation, and the US specifically, is going down because of inflation. Costs are still increasing, inflation is still happening, and people are tightening their wallets, and that's why it's getting hammered. So I think a TLDR here is they're anticipating a downturn in some way where people spend less consumable spending. But then also, Shopify is so dependent still at 60% of their revenue coming from their payment portal. That's also why they raised prices. If you guys haven't noticed, they raised their prices on the Shopify,
on their paid
Shopify
plans.
Plus. Yeah. They had to raise prices again because they had to keep sales increasing. The only way to do that is subscription, get more people to pay. Now, what I think is interesting is they're in a healthy position still. I saw some conversation on X about this, that if Shopify was smart, they would start pivoting to back of house needs for brands. Because right now, again, most of their revenue is coming from brands selling things, payments, they get a cut of that. People using the Shop Pay everywhere else on the internet. There's also going to be Shop Pay where they can integrate within like a Facebook shop and Instagram shop as well, where people can pay with Shop Pay. But that's all requiring people to have consumable money to spend. So while the market's good and people are spending, that's going to still happen. But the argument was that if Shopify was smart, they would start focusing on back of house things. Like, how can we be the QuickBooks for brands? So that not only brands use them for payment processing and for store, but now for their QuickBooks, for their inventory management. And so that's where the argument is like where Shopify has to pivot if they want to keep growing, because right now they're hamstrung on people paying things. So in a downturn market, they're going to get absolutely hammered. So the only way for them to grow is to take over more back of house needs for brands and consumers.
Yeah. How do you think shopping season this year and consumer spending this year, what do you think the contrast is or could be relative to last year? Because I remember last year was a lot of media doom and gloom,
yes.
Right? Economic tightening was happening for the first time in a long time. The money printer was stopped, like the money printer that everyone got so used to during COVID times. Remember that COVID thing? What was it again? Some kind of video, COVID videos. Anyway, the money printer was gone. Economic tightening came in. So the money stopped and the economic tightening came in. Interest rates started rising. And it was everywhere, all over the news. I remember the UK media in 2023 were using terms like the Great Depression is coming, scared the living bejesus out of everyone, right? Mid-year. So going into shopping season. Now I think people are a bit more, the frog in the pot. They're a bit like cozier in that water compared to last year where it just jacked it up a whole bunch. What do you think would happen this year relative to last?
So I have two fields of thought for this. Number one is, as long as for us in the US, unemployment stays historically low, people are going to keep spending even if they go into debt. I personally believe that. So I think that's my only true north, unemployment. When I see that start ratcheting it up, I'm going to start barreling down the hatches. So that's one train of thought. I think one train of thought is I really think this year is going to be completely okay. People are going to still spend a crap ton of money as long as that stays low. However, for brands, it's going to be a tough year because it's election year in the US. And if you don't know this, Biden has hundreds of millions of dollars to spend in advertising. So TV, Meta,
all
YouTube,
those politicians too.
They just opened up a TikTok account as well. So I think CPMs are really, because I remember the last election, the same thing happened. Up until October, it was just brutal. And then as soon as the election was over, like CPMs came down until Black Friday. So I would expect a 20, 30% rise on CPMs across the board to be safe, which is just going to be, it's going to be quite expensive. So now is the time to pivot. What are other acquisition sources? How can I just bloat up my list to help me survive during that time? Raise prices, bundles, get better margin deals now, because it's going to be a rough, I think, middle summer to fall period.
Yeah. What you said about the debt thing is interesting. While you're talking about that, I was just looking this thing up here from the New York Fed, and just looking at how even through 23 and now going into 24, it's still climbing. Like what you're saying, like that's fascinating.
Well, because one thing is student loan forgiveness happened in the US, which I'm not getting into that debate, but it's retarded. So what that means is people that had student loans feel like they have additional consumable spending, even though their credit cards are being piled up. But honestly, because of people's just financial literacy in their habits, like I said, as long as unemployment stays low, people, I believe, are just going to keep spending.
Yeah, that's very much the MO of the West. Like leverage debt.
Gives me a heart attack thinking about it. Like, I have zero card debt.
I grew up. Well, back in the East, we have the other problem, which is like we're chronic oversavers.
Oh yeah.
So we're so deathly afraid of like the government or like, some kind of country invading the heck out of us. So we just shove dollar bills under our mattresses. Like my grandma still has like a biscuit like a cookie can, like a tin with bills in it.
Wow.
So that's the kind of family mindset that we grew up with. And if we find something that we like, Dad would always teach us to walk around the block to find like a cheaper option of that same thing. And I'm going, Dad, what? It's $2. He's like, no, 50 cents is 50 cents, son. So that was always the kind of, I don't even know it's a family value, but it definitely got expounded to me like it was a family value. Anyway, point being, I get how it's so much more liberally used debt, personal debt, just, credit cards, figuring that type of stuff out. It was so alien to me when I first moved to the West even. I'm going, wow, they just like, how are they going to pay the money back? Do they even care? Doesn't seem like it. They'll just get us the next credit card, and they're always going to be lenders.
Yeah. I mean, I'm keeping an eye on it. There's going to be an inevitable cliff. Obviously not everything continues forever. What goes up must come down.
Sure. Just talk to Ray Dalio.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll scare
it's
the
inevitability. Something's going to have to pivot to change the trajectory.
Right. Yeah. So what you're saying is, because it's election year and also because of all this news that's going on, at least on the consumer trend side, and kind of backed up by the Shopify performance side as well.
I think anything can change. Things can change very quickly, but I think for now, I would consider this year to be, besides the ad costs, to be fairly consistent from last year.
From a consumer spending standpoint.
Correct. That's what I foresee. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to beat, I think we beat that drum last year. I think it's going to continue again. If consumers are going to be as selective as last year. They're going to keep spending, but I think they're going to be as selective as last year as to what they spend. So really it's that whole staying top of mind throughout the year, or at least going into shopping season, so that you become one of the selected pile. Your brand becomes one of the selected pile for that shopping season, so that the money goes there as opposed to flowing elsewhere, especially if you're paying the higher CPMs for it too.
So I was talking to a brand last week, and they were talking about what do they have to do to have another breakthrough. And instead, I turned the table and I said, well, what are you willing to do to have a breakthrough? For example,
okay,
what
William
you said is
Wallace.
very accurate. What was that?
Okay, Braveheart. What are you willing to do? Yeah.
That's a good way of thinking about it. Is same thing, like consumers have a finite amount of money they're going to spend during Black Friday and Christmas. So how do you get yourself part of that list? And so like, as a brand, what are you willing to do? So for example, I told this brand, I said, well, are you willing to be front facing? Are you willing to start doing some collabs with people to build that trust and that reputation? Because if you're not, someone else will do that and they will get that sale. And so like it's getting harder out there. So what are you willing to do? Like that's what I've been thinking about. Like what can brands do and what are they willing to do?
Yeah. Yeah. The upshot to all of this is essentially it really does wash out in times like these. It really does wash out all the people that aren't in it to be in it. You know what I mean? The ones that go, I'm going to just spin up a Shopify store. Ads are easy to run. It's just like the heyday, I guess, of 2016, 17. Those types of people that are coming in for a quick buck and spinning up the next store and then having bad experiences. Shipping times are horrible. No customer service. You can't reach anyone on the phone, like all that. My hope is that it does wash all of those people out. I guess, how does the saying go? When the tide goes out, you'll start to see who doesn't have their swimsuit on, who's swimming naked, right? In this case, the overall net, of course, Shopify would hate for that to happen because that means less merchants, right? But perhaps it's just like an email list. Perhaps it's the merchants that shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Yeah,
and that it brings in a whole new wave, a new age of merchants that go, oh, this is how the game is played. And now I'm going to make Shopify, you guys, and the industry in general, just rise that tide. It just has to kind of like suffer through the pain, like take the path of max pain, right? Doom and gloom, man.
But the shining light is there's a lot of things actually you can do in these times. Number one, you make good content. You can you have some kind of a mission that people can get behind? Because and all that's tied to as well is, can people get behind you? Because people will know, like, and trust you before they know, like, and trust a brand. So that's kind of like a shortcut to it because people like other people and stories. 100%. So for example, like I was on a conversation with a brand recently, and they have a very big organic presence on TikTok, YouTube, and on Instagram. Very big, hundreds of thousands and millions. They have a massive moat because people fell in love with them first and then they started selling products. Obviously, it's not easy to replicate, but if I had to turn my attention to anything, I would turn my attention there. I'm like, I have to crack this because that, if anything, is my defense to rising in ad costs. It's the antidote to uncertain times because people always gravitate to the thing that they trust or they relate to, and that's typically other humans.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Beast, Feastables. I forget which Paul. Prime. Yeah. Like, there's something to be said about that, and it's very much within reason for a regular person just like you to start working up towards that. Mr. Beast was a regular person just like us until he became Mr. Beast, and his whole track record all the way when he was a Mr. Beast nobody is on YouTube. So it's very much within reason to cut out your own slice of that, own your own slice of that. We've seen it firsthand, right? And it's not anything fantastical. They weren't born with a silver spoon. They just did it. Right? They just did it. Pretty much it. Yeah. I maybe we can end this way. Consumers will always be around. We need stuff and we like things. And I don't know about you, but when I spend money, I feel good spending money on things that make me feel good. So in other words, I'm not necessarily a necessity buyer or a utility buyer. Of course, I've got that bucket in that category too. So that's not going to go away. Just because the intensity might be changing doesn't mean that it's going to get completely just obliterated. And in times like these, when stuff gets dark, the people that stick around and then see through it, those are the ones that end up winning every single time.
Yeah. Like how much pain can you take and frankly, out persevere everybody else?
Yeah. This is like Survivor Island 2024 e-commerce edition. Like, you know.
So and this is just don't go out of business. That's the motto. Just don't go out of business.
Totally. And then get crafty, just like Survivor, right? You got to make some alliances. You got to start like getting crafty a little bit. Who's going to get the food? Vote people, all that stuff. I wish that we could turn this into a reality TV show for the ages. Shopify may be an idea for you. Just like D2C founder Survivor.
That would be interesting. I'd watch that.
I'd watch that for sure. I don't know.
But me and like maybe 30,000 other people in the world that care enough about this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We're like 33. Like viewership, just 33 people. All right. Well, I promise you guys next week won't be as doomy and gloomy, but I think it's our responsibility to bring stuff up like that to your attention so that you know the game that you're playing in. It's never a bed of roses. Let's make sure that we don't treat it that way, because building's hard. That's why we do what we do and hopefully share what we share so that we can make it just that little bit hard. If you have any questions, as always, hit us up in the comments or shoot us a DM. You can find that in the show notes as well, connecting with Ray or me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. All right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next time. See you, Ray.
See you, man.